Welcome back to Catching a Case with Cadence. Today we're going to be talking about the Cheshire family murders. So last video was not it. I actually feel like deleting it, but this video we're going to try to do better. So without further ado, I'm going to put up disclaimers and content warning because this is a fairly gruesome, disturbing case of what happened. So if y'all are not into what I'm going to be talking about, definitely don't watch this video. So I'll be putting that up. And also shout out to Chastity doing my hair with my little tinsel. I love it. My hair's looking a little ratchet. I'm looking a little ratchet, but that's okay. So let's get started. So on July 23rd of 2007, in a very wealthy, quiet, nothing ever happened in this place neighborhood, what would start off as just a simple burglary turned into a 7-hour slew of very disturbing crimes. It was pretty heartbreaking reading about this, so another warning out there for you. We're gonna go ahead and start off by just telling you about the victims, and then we'll get into the perpetrators and the crimes. So one of the victims in this all-American dream of a family was Miss Jennifer Hawk Petit. And I don't know if I'm saying these names right. I'm just going by off of what I'm reading and what I think is right. So just bear with me because the names just get crazier. But anyway, she was born on September 26th of 1958. She was a nurse and a co-director of the Health Center of Cheshire Academy. She met her husband at the Children's Hospital in Pittsburgh in 1985 when she was just a new oncology nurse, and he was actually in his third year medical student at the University of Pittsburgh. And then her and her husband, Dr. Petit, married in 1985. And then in okay, so Dr. William Petit was the only survivor of this crime, or these crimes that happened. He was an endocrinologist from Plainville, or at Plainville, and he also was the medical director of Joslin Diabetes Center at the Connecticut Central Hospital. After being married for 4 years, him and his wife finally had their first child, which was a little girl named Haley, and they had her on October 15th of 1989. She had graduated Miss Porter's high school, where she played varsity basketball, cross country, and crew. She was a high honor roll student, so she was very smart, very bright. And when she was at the Miss Porter's high school, she was elected to the senior leadership position of the athletic association head. She also won a school award for the exceptional community service. She was scheduled to attend Dartmouth College, and she wanted to study medicine just like her daddy. She had an active fundraiser for multiple sclerosis research, which is what her mother was diagnosed with. And so she captained a walk for the MS team called Haley's Hope. And she was only 17 at the time of these crimes. So they eventually had another child, a little girl named Michaela. She was born November 17th of 1995. She attended Chase Collegiate School before her death. After Haley had left for college, Michaela planned on taking over her walk, Haley's Hope, and she actually named it Michaela's Miracle. She often cooked for her family, which was something she loved to do. And she was only 11 years old when all this went down, which is just crazy. 11. So, and it looked like she was going to follow right in her footsteps of her big sister, and she was very, very, very bright too. So I'm just going to be talking about kind of what led up, like the night before, the day before, what actually happened, and then we're going to talk about the perpetrators. So, on the morning of July 22nd of 2017, the family attended church, just like they always did. So, this is on Sunday. It was just going to be a very relaxing day for them. Michaela wanted to cook Sunday dinner, like she normally did. And her mom actually went to a local grocery store to get everything that she needed to cook dinner that night. And after they got home, they cooked, relaxed. Mr. Petit actually went to lay down in the sofa in the sunroom where he had fell asleep, and the girls went to the different room and was watching movies, and then they eventually just went in their bedrooms and went to sleep. And so it was just a typical normal family day for them before all this happened. So yeah, you never know what's going to happen, and I'll get more into it in just a minute after I talk about the people that actually did these crimes. But whenever Michaela and her mama were in that local grocery store, they were actually being looked at and followed, and they never even knew it. So when we go out to grocery stores or anywhere, especially with our babies, we really, really, really have to look at our surroundings, keep an eye, like who's being suspicious, why does this people keep looking at me, why are they following me down these aisles, especially us ladies. And I wanted to show y'all something that I have. So this little thing is a door stopper, and I think it's like 20 bucks at Walmart, but you put it underneath your door handle and you kind of like kick the bottom of it to shove it up underneath there, and it has different lengths that you can do it to depending on how tall your door handle is from the floor. But I have 2 of them. I put them on my bedroom door when me and the kids go to sleep. I shove one underneath the door handle, and then I also shove one in our front door. So, because it's literally people really, really, really have to try to get in. And by the time that you hear them trying to break in or whatever, you got guns, and you can prepare yourself to, you just gotta arm yourself, or you have enough time to put your babies in the bathroom, in the closet, and have time to call 911 and prepare yourself while you're hearing them trying to break in the door. So if you don't have one, $20 at Walmart, definitely go get it. Especially after reading up on this case, I'm really glad. I'm probably going to go get some more just to really make my house secure on all my doors. But it makes me feel comfortable at home with the babies. So definitely need to look into that. So prior to breaking into the Petit family home, the 2 men actually burglarized 2 other houses, stealing their credit cards and money that these people had. They decided to target this family, like I said earlier, whenever they were in the grocery store buying groceries for their family dinner. And Joshua, the younger one of the 2 men, he's the one that spotted them, and he said, and I quote, he thought the family had a very nice house and a car and thought it would be nice to be there someday. So he broke in because he targeted this family because he wanted to live like them. He liked how they lived and wished that he lived like that. But that evening, after he followed the family back to their house to find out where they lived, he met up with the other man named Stephen Hayes, and then they made the decision that that was the house that they were going to target. So yeah. I'm going to start talking about them. So the older man of the two is named Stephen Hayes. He was born May 30th in 1963 in Homestead, Florida. He was convicted as an adult for the first time at the age of 16. So he already starting young. He was paroled in 1982, and but he violated that only 7 weeks after he had got out. During the time between that incident and the Cheshire murders, he was arrested 30 times, and he was incarcerated most of his life, pretty much. He before the Cheshire murders, the last time he had gotten arrested was in 2004, and he smashed a car window with a rock and stole the lady's purse. And he was paroled in 2016, and then was sent to the Silliman halfway house, and that is actually where he met Joshua. I don't even want to pronounce his last name. I'm gonna butcher. I'm gonna just say Kami, because it's Kami Sarjevsky. Butchered. We're just gonna call him Joshua. But anyway, that's where he met this man. So Joshua Andrew whatever was born August 10th of 1980 in Torrington, Connecticut. His mom was a 16-year-old girl who got impregnated by a mechanic who was barely out of his teens. And this is what the adoption official said in this man's profile. So he was put up for adoption, and he was adopted by Benedict Kamenshardjevsky, whatever. And he was the son of theatrical director Theodore and the dancer Ernestine. But him and his wife Jude actually adopted Joshua. And in early 1990s, Joshua's adopted, sister accused him of sexually assaulting her. And during the penalty phase of the trial from the Cheshire murders, Joshua's adopted dad, said that he, now that he looks back on it, he believes that he actually did molest and sexually assault his little girl. So yeah, he should have spoke up before, and maybe none of this would have happened, and they would have looked more into it. But yeah, so Joshua committed his first burglary crime when he was only 14. In 2002, he was arrested for 18 home invasions, and he was convicted of 12 counts of burglary in December of 2002. So he was sentenced to 9 years in prison with a 6-year of special parole. His defense attorney at the time of those crimes said, and I quote, told him about every burglary he committed in perfect detail. He told him that after robbing these houses, he would go into the rooms where the occupants were sleeping and would listen to them breathe. He did this because he enjoyed the feeling of invading people's homes and violating their security. Now, how creepy is that? If I seen someone standing over me, breathing, listening to me breathe, I would, If it was Oakley, she'd probably be flying across the room. But anyway, during his sentencing hearing, Judge James described Joshua as a calculated, cold-blooded predator. Yes, we definitely can get that from him. And I know it's just burglary crimes, but I feel like, obviously, after reading what they did, it can escalate fairly quickly. And he's committed all of them crimes before. They should have just kept him in jail. I know it's just stealing, but anything can escalate very, very quickly. So, but anyway, it just keeps getting worse. But Joshua was paroled in April 2007. Under the Connecticut law, the prosecutors were supposed to send the parole board a transcript of the sentencing, like everything he got charged for and how everything went. But the parole board that released Joshua never received those transcripts and wasn't aware of all those details. So if they would have properly sent the documents like they were supposed to, then he probably would have not gotten out of jail, and this probably would have not happened. So yeah, but after being paroled, he started staying at the Silliman house, and that's where Joshua and Stephen had met. And shortly after meeting, the two men decided that they were going to become partners and started doing the burglaries together and started to steal cash and credit cards from all these wealthy families, including the Petit family. So yeah, I am now going to tell you the pretty much details of the crimes and everything that happened that night. So this is probably, if you don't like hearing about none of this stuff, this is probably where you would need to turn the video off and come back later. So after the Petit family went to bed and they saw that there was no movement in the house, at around 3 a.m. the two men decided that they were going to break into the house. So they found an unlocked door in the basement of the house, so they went in through that way, and by the stairs was a baseball bat, and they grabbed that and proceeded up the stairs. And once they reached the stairs, it opened up into the sunroom, which is where they found Dr. Petit laying on the couch, and that was their first victim. So Joshua was the one that had the baseball bat, and he's the one who struck the dad in the face 4 to 5 times, and then they proceeded to drag him down to the basement and zip ties his wrist and his ankles together, and then they proceeded back upstairs, and that's where they found the mom. Once they found the mom and the girls upstairs in their rooms, they got them and they tied their wrists and their ankles to the bedpost and put pillowcases over their head. And once they did that, they started ransacking the house and try to find cash, cards, anything valuable. And they were really disappointed with what they found in the house. But one of the men actually found their checkbook where they balanced everything out and saw that they actually had $40,000 in the bank. So Stephen, the older one, saw 2 gas cans, took those, got them filled up. He was actually caught on surveillance camera filling up the gas cans with $10. And then he came back to the house and told Jennifer that he was going to bring him to the bank and they were about to withdraw money out of their account that way, and that Joshua was going to stay behind to make sure that nobody got away. So she was told that she was going to need to withdraw $15,000 for the men whenever they got to the bank. Jennifer was actually really smart about it, and she ended up informing the manager of the bank that her family was being held hostage, and she was able to do this without alerting Stephen that she was telling this guy this. So while the manager was calling the police, letting them know what was going on and what was happening, the bank teller started withdrawing the $15,000 out like it was nothing, because my bank, you can't withdraw that much. So obviously they were going to be on alert anyway with her withdrawing that much. But she informed them that the men were actually being nice and that all they wanted was money, which at the time, that is all they wanted. So she was thinking that she could just give them the money and then they would go and leave them alone, and then later on they would catch them. But that was not the case. The police actually set up a perimeter around their home, and this is just mind-blowing to me. But they were able to set up a perimeter around the house without alerting anybody, without letting anybody know that they were even out there. And they never entered the house. They just sat there waiting. But they didn't know that all this horrible stuff was happening in the house. But it gets crazier from here. So while Stephen had Miss Jennifer at the bank withdrawing that money, Joshua was left behind, and he went into Michaela's room, which y'all remember me saying that she was 11 years old. He went into her room and saw her tied to the bedpost, which they had done, and started sexually assaulting her, and was taking pictures and videos of it with his phone while he was doing all this to her. And he removed her clothes and bleached them to try to get evidence off of her of what he did and everything. And he actually said that he told police during interrogation that he thought that she was 14 or 16 years old, which doesn't make it any better at all. She is still a baby, and it just doesn't make a difference. But they actually were able to find sperm of his in her, so yeah, he got put away with that. Whenever Jennifer and Stephen got back to the house, Joshua let him know what he had done, and he forced Stephen to strangle Jennifer. And after he had killed her, Joshua still persuaded him to sexually assault her and rape her. So, yeah, these are two very disturbing people, as you can tell. And while this was going on, while they were raping and doing everything to these poor people, these poor ladies, Dr. Petit, who is down in the basement tied up, he heard the thumping and the moaning going on, and he yelled and telling them to stop. And one of the men responded and told him, "Don't worry, it's all going to be over in a couple minutes." So just imagine being tied up, not knowing what's going on, but you're hearing all this stuff, and there's nothing you can do. Like, I can't even imagine being in that situation. But he was able to free himself and get the restraints off. And he escaped and was hopping up the basement stairs to the outside of the house. And he said that, "I thought it's now or never, because in my mind at that moment, I thought they were going to shoot all of us." But he ended up crawling to the neighbor's house, and because he was so badly beaten, the neighbors didn't even know who he was because his face was so swollen and he was very unrecognizable. So Joshua actually discovered that Mr. Petit was had escaped, and he rushed to Stephen, and he finished up with Jennifer, and together they got the gas cans and they doused her body and the rest of the house and the girls' rooms all over them. They doused it with the gasoline. They left Michaela and Haley tied to their beds and covered them, obviously, as well. They set the place on fire, and then they fled the scene in the family's car. The police were nearby watching the house and immediately pursued, and the men had crashed the car into the police car. It just amazes me that the police didn't intervene, earlier, because if they would have just went in there and caught these people that were robbing them, none of this would have happened. But the police sometimes, I don't know, I'm not even gonna get into it. But by the time the firefighters arrived at the scene, the entire house was gone up in flames. They were not able to save the girls, and Miss Jennifer had died from the strangulation. Michaela and Haley had actually died from inhaling all the smoke in the house. They did find Haley had escaped from her restraints and had died at the top of the stairs, so she couldn't even make it down there. And her feet had sustained 3rd and 4th degree burns. And they found Michaela still tied to her bed, and her lower body was hanging off of it. And like I said, all this was going on 7 hours. Like, it all lasted 7 hours. Can you just imagine 7 hours of just torture of what these men did? I sure can't. So now I'm going to talk about their sentencing and like what they were charged with and everything. So Hayes was found guilty on 16 of the 17 counts on October 5th, 2010. On November 8th, 2010, the jury came back and they recommended that he get the death penalty. And the Superior Court Judge John C. Bloom sentenced him to death on December 2nd of 2010. So he was going to get the death penalty. But his sentence was reduced to a life when the Connecticut Supreme Court vacated their sentence in 2015. So he actually did not get the death penalty, which he definitely should have. He got 3 counts of capital felony, 1st degree kidnapping 4 counts, 1st degree sexual assault, 2nd degree sexual assault, and 3rd degree burglary 2 counts. So that's what all he was charged with. Yeah, ridiculous. So Joshua remained incarcerated at the Walker Reception Center with a $15 million bond until his conviction. His trial actually began on September 19th, 2011. And then on October 13th, 2011, he was convicted of all 17 counts. On December 9th of 2011, they recommended the death penalty for him, and the judge, John Blue, the same one that did the death penalty on Hayes, he said that that Joshua should have death by lethal injection. But his sentence was also reduced when the Connecticut Supreme Court vacated their sentence in 2015. So these two got off easy. But yeah. And Joshua is actually currently seeking retrial. He said that he did not receive a fair trial due to the location that it was held in. But on April 12th of 2021, the Connecticut Supreme Court rejected Joshua's appeal to a 7-0 decision. Oh, and an interesting fact that I found. In October 2019, Hayes, the older man, claimed that he was to be transgender, and he was undergoing hormone therapy in prison as part of her transition into a woman. Yeah, it was an interesting fact that I saw in here, so I thought I would share to y'all that interesting fact. So the only survivor of this crime was Dr. Petit. He has not returned to his medical practice since the murders, stating his desire to be active in foundations to set up the honor and memory of his family. He is actually getting married, or he got married to another lady. Yeah, so that's how he's doing. And the aftermath of these home invasions, there was a lot of stuff that was put into place. I want to read a few that, since this specific murder case that happened, the home invasion murders led to immediate calls for reforms in Connecticut's criminal justice system. So on July 31st, 2007, Governor Rail ordered electronic monitoring of paroled burglars, which is great. On September 21st, she banned parole for violent offenders and ordered review of convicts already on parole, which is what they should have been doing, and this probably would have not happened. She wanted, on July 31st, Governor Rail called for a special session to consider tougher crime legislation, and on August 31st, she was appointed a task force to examine Connecticut's criminal justice system. Yeah, there's just a bunch, look, there's just a bunch of stuff that they put into place after these murders, and it should have already been put into place, but you know, something has to happen in order for all this stuff to be put into place. My cards are falling. So this is Stephen Hayes, and you see his last name? This is Joshua Komisarjevsky. These were the two murderers. And this is the beautiful family that was murdered. So you got Doctor, you got Miss Jennifer, you got Michaela, and you got Haley. I figured this is easier to show y'all pictures this way. It's probably just better to put them up on, yeah, I'm trying to find the house pictures. Ooh. Where'd it go? Oh, and the reason why these are called Cheshire Family Murders is because this was based in Cheshire, Connecticut. I totally forgot to say that. My fault, guys. But yeah, if y'all found this case interesting, definitely compared to my last ones, please comment, say how you liked it. I guess I'll put up pictures after this of the family and the crime photos and everything that happened. That way you can get a better view of it. But if y'all like this kind of stuff better, or if y'all have a specific case that y'all want me to go over, or anything, please comment. Let me know what y'all thought about this. Please, if y'all want me to continue to keep doing this, let me know. If y'all don't, let me know. But yeah, other than that, I hope y'all have a great night and stay safe and be aware of your surroundings and people, and at this point, carry a weapon, because I do know how to use a weapon. So thank you, everybody, and I hope y'all have a great night.